Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all in this truth and who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit, and I'm entitled this one, Esau is about to come down with great wrath. And who is Esau? Edom in the scriptures is no other than the twin brother of Jacob, which sold his birthright ultimately for a morsel of meat. Because Esau, Edom, which today would be the self-proclaimed white man, he couldn't wait, to eat. And that's the same tactic that he's about to use up on the planet Earth by really hitting these people where it hurts, which is ultimately their stomach, how much they eat, especially here in America, Babylon the Great, the land of gluttony, where everybody is constantly eating, never stopping, snacking, never fasted a day in their life. So this devil is about to come down and reset this whole system, reset the economy, reset the dollar, and bring in that new digital blockchain system where he's going to have the world during the hour of temptation take what is known as the MOTB, which is the RFID microchip. But before that happens, he's going to allow all hell to break loose. He's going to shut the grid down. He's going to stop the supply chain from moving around the planet Earth. He's going to stop these different transportation trucks that move the goods from the cargo ships down to the grocery stores. So very soon, Esau, Edom, he's already crashing out, but he's about to just crash the hell out. He's about to come down with with the great wrath, with the sword, the gun. He's going to establish martial law. And really, it's to try to do away with the nation of Israel, with the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because he still has that enmity against the children of Jacob, against the children of Israel, which are the 12 tribes, which today consist of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans and Israelite foreigners. That's why this devil is trying to get that birthright back. But ultimately, we know that he sold it, like it says in Genesis chapter 27. But he was given that temporary blessing, and he knows that his blessing is temporary. That's why he's trying to offset prophecy. He's trying to get the immortality through the left-hand means, through AI, through hacking a body. But we know that he's not going to be successful. But he is going to take as many people down with him as he can, because he's going to be like Nino Brown. He's going to try to take everybody down with him, and he is going to take a lot of people down with him, including two-thirds of our people of the nation of Israel, and along with these heathens. This is Revelation chapter 12 and verse 12. And it reads, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he had but a short time." So this is why he's scrambling to get his new digital system up and running, because Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, he knows that he's on borrowed time. He sees all the signs in the heavens, the so-called UFOs, which are the chariots of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. First and foremost, he sees the prophets calling this devil out to his face, telling him that his kingdom is going down, calling him out on his lies, his deceptions, calling out the small hats. And the whole world is starting to wake up. to who the problem of the earth really is, that ultimately the self-proclaimed white man, Esau, Edom, is not fit to rule. He's not fit to rule upon the planet Earth. All he does is cause destruction, death. He takes resources from these other countries, like it says in Habakkuk chapter 2. You know, his desire is his hell. You know, he can never have enough. That's why he's trying to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. He's trying to take control of all these different resources that these countries have, because he's trying to gain leverage. He knows that he's never going to pay that debt off. So what he's going to do is try to take these resources, and ultimately he's going to start a war. Because you got Trump, you know, on those Steam files, the island Steam files. But we know that he doesn't want to be held accountable. So he's doing the same thing as Benjamin, not a Jew. He's willing to go there and start a war so he could just avoid being persecuted, along with the rest of these devils, because the world knows all the abominations, the closed things behind the doors, the drinking of the red bodily fluids of children, and sacrifice, all these abominations that are being done behind closed doors. Now the world is starting to wake up to the fact that it's not a conspiracy no more. It's not a conspiracy theory. The Illuminati, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. Now the whole world knows. You know, the whole world knows that the small hats are imposters and they're not the true chosen people. So that's why he's about to shut this thing down. He's about to shut the internet down. He's about to shut the grid down, because the cat is out the bag. So the only thing left for him to do, he can't no longer lie. He's always going to lie, but he can no longer use that lie tactic. He's just going to come down with his blessing, which is the sword, the gun, the robot dogs, upon all the inhabitants of the planet Earth. But really, he's trying to do away with the nation of Israel, because he knows that, okay, I'm going to do away with the nation of Israel, then I can have the birthright back, like it says in Jeremiah 31. But Yahweh Shemel Shai is mocking this devil, because he said, okay, if you can measure the heavens, if you could count the grains of the sand of the sea, then I'll do away with the nation of Israel. But we know that that's never going to happen. So that's why he's trying so hard to offset prophecy and get the blessing through the left-hand side, through AI, through becoming cyborgs. But we know that he's not going to be successful, and that's why he's just going to crash out. He's about to crash out. He's crashing out now. This devil is all over the place. He's back on the moon. You know, he's in Cuba. He's in Iran. He's in Israel. He's everywhere. You know, but our people, the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, even though they see all this happening, they're still going to keep on playing games. They're still going to be in that spirit of eating, drinking, giving into marriage. And that's ultimately why majority of our people, they're just going to get taken by Esau, Edom. They're going to be put in these detention centers, in these FEMA camps. And a lot of them are going to get put to death. They're going to get tortured. But ultimately, that's because they didn't take heed to the warning of Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai. This is Ezekiel 33 and verse 1. Again, the word of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai, came unto me, saying, verse 2, Son of man, speak to the children of thy people, which are the Israelites, and say unto them, when I bring the sword upon a land, if the people of the land take a man of their coast and set him for their watchman. Verse 3, if when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet and warn the people. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what the true prophets of Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai are going to be doing. They're going to be blowing the trumpet, warning the sheep, the congregation, regardless if they take heed or they don't. And like we know, like it says in Zechariah chapter 13 and verse 8, majority of our people, they're not going to get this truth. That's why they're going to get destroyed during Jacob's trouble. That's why they're going to get destroyed during martial law, during civil war. A lot of them are going to get sent to the Middle East, over there in the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, the valley of judgment, to fight that third world war and ultimately to fight against Yahweh Shai and the angels. But we still got to warn our people regardless if they take heed or not. You know, verse 4, then whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet and take it not warning If the sword come and take him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. So we're out there on the highways and byways warning our people, and the majority of them, they're just getting marked for judgment. But first and foremost, we're out there to preach to the choir, to preach to the elect, the ones who are really going to take heed and take warning from Yahweh Bashim Shai and get right and repent, build that relationship with the Heavenly Father through his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, while the doors of grace are still open, because very soon the Lord is going to be done speaking through his prophets, through his mouthpiece. And he's going to let those four winds let loose. And that's what's going to be speaking. It's going to be the judgments of Yahweh Bashim Shai. And that's, that's something we don't want no part of. That's why us are the hopeful elect. We're getting ourselves right, getting ourselves ready, for Yahweh Bashim Shai to crash this thing down. And that's why it says right here in verse 5, he heard the trumpet, he heard the sound of the trumpet and took not warning. His blood shall be upon him, the 2/3. They're not going to have an excuse. They're not going to have an excuse. Okay, I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to take the MOTB, which is the RFID microchip. I didn't know that the Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man was my enemy. No, you knew. Either you heard from the prophets of GMS, starting with our apostles, elder bishops, elders, brothers on down, or you heard it through these other Israelite camps, or you heard it through these TikTok prophets, these doomsday preppers, these truthers. They're straight up telling you what's about to come upon the planet Earth. A time like no other, at least. These preppers, at least they're preparing physically, carnally, but at least they're getting ready. What are our people doing? Playing games, still in that house of mirth spirit, but that's going to lead them to get put to death. It says, but he that taketh warning shall deliver his soul, the remnant and the elect. Those are the only ones who are going to take heed to the warning of Yahweh Bashim Shai. They're going to acknowledge, okay, down there, the devil, Esau, Edom, he's ready to crash out, to do a number on our people, to do a number on Jacob, the Israelites. This is Ezekiel 21 and verse 9. Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Shai, say, a sword is sharpened and also furbished. And that's what Esau, Edom is doing right now. He's sharpening his sword, to fight Iran, to fight the different countries. Ultimately he's sharpening his sword, the gun, whatever equipment he's about to bring out, teeth of wild beasts, beasts never seen before, newly created beasts, the robot dogs with the guns attached to their to the top. You got the Terminator, you got Terminator robots. You got all these devices that Esau, Edom is getting ready to use upon the planet Earth, but really mainly to our people, the Israelites. It says verse 10, it is sharpened to make a sword slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree. So it's it's saying, should we make mirth? Should we be in a house of mirth and a spirit of folly, knowing that this is about to come down upon the planet Earth? But that's what majority of our people are doing. They're in the pre-flood spirit, eating, drinking, giving it to marriage, because they don't believe that this thing's about to go down. They don't believe that Esau, Edom, that the self-proclaimed white man is really going to go there and start doing a number on our people. But he already demonstrated 6 years ago with the seed-demic, the 2019, the juice, that he was willing to shut this thing down and let people die and give them the juice. And he's about to do the same thing again. He's about to come down with the gun. He's going to shut this thing down. He's going to put a lot of our people, in these detention centers, and if you don't take the MOTB, which is the RFID microchip, he's going to put you to death, and even some of the members of the remnant and the elect are going to be put into situations, but they're going to endure to the end. They're going to be willing to take that death, that being a martyr for the testimony of Yahweh Bashim Shai. But our people, man, they're going to take it. The 2/3 of our people, the wicked of our people, those who aren't part of the elect, they're going to take it because this is all they know is mirth, party, playing around. Verse 11, and he had given it to be furbished, and that it may be handled. This sword is sharpened, and it is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. And who is the slayer? Is the self-proclaimed white man, Esau, Edom. Yahweh Shemel Shai is going to use Esau to do a number on our people, because our people, the wicked, we've been getting our ass whooped for sinning against Yahweh Shemel Shai. Like I said, you were sold into the nations, because you sinned against me, against the Lord. But now, the Lord is going to deliver a remnant of his people. But to the rest of Jake, the Israelites, he's going to allow them to be given to Esau, Edom, because they don't want to take heed. They don't want to repent. And okay, you don't want to have no covering. You don't want to be kept from all these different judgments. And okay, I'm gonna give you up to the enemy. And our people, they're gonna trust in the enemy. But like it says in Sirach, chapter 12, never trust thine enemy. This is 2 Ezra 16:70. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord, Yahweh Bashmel Shai. So in every major city, it says, in those that fear the Lord. Who are the ones that fear Yahweh Bashmel Shai? Is the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. They're the main ones packing up these churches, being religious. And if they're not into Christianity, Roman Catholicism, that they get into these other religions, because ultimately our people, they're meant to worship Yahweh Bashmel Shai. But since they weren't given the truth, then, they're worshiping these other gods and idols. But that's going to lead them to get put to death. Like it says in Romans chapter 10, they have a zeal, but not according to knowledge. So they're basing off, okay, we're Christians, we're Roman Catholicism, we're righteous, we're not wicked, we're saved. But our people really don't know what's about to come down upon the planet Earth. These Christian pastors, they're not warning Jake. They're not telling them to repent and get right because all hell is about to break loose. No, they're telling them about prosperity, about peace and safety. About, don't worry about the Strait of Hormuz situation. That's not going to affect you. When here is clearly affecting you. It's affecting your pocket. It's affecting everybody. Verse 71, they shall be like mad men, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. And that's already been happening. We got a glimpse of that, in Minneapolis, with the whole ICE situation. They were going from house to house, just straight up taking people. Northern Kingdom, and the Southern Kingdom, because ultimately it's the time of Jacob's trouble. Is the trouble of Jacob, of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So if they were doing Jake like that, while everything's still so-called normal, while society is still so-called intact, how much more when there's no lights, when there's no electricity, when there's no food, when there's no water? That's when people are going to be going from house to house, just taking shit for the lack of bread. Verse 72, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out their houses. So it's going to be bad. Jake is going to be thrown in the streets. They're going to be thrown in these trucks and be taken to these detention centers. A lot of them are going to get shipped out over there to the Middle East. But they don't want to fear Yahweh Bashmel Shai. They think that, I'm going to worship JC, Christ, and Buddha and Allah, and I'm going to be good. But the Lord is not going to answer them because they're not calling upon the true names. They're calling upon these false gods, these false idols. And it even says that, it says, okay, you don't want to worship me. Let your gods and idols deliver you in that time then. It says, verse 73, then shall they be known who are my chosen. And that's the remnant and the elect of Yahweh Bashmel Shai. It says, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire. And that's what's happening right now during the grace period. The remnant, the elect, the 144,000, the 1/3, they're getting themselves purified. They're getting themselves right with Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, being more made in the image of the Lord. But what is majority of our people doing? Playing games, worshiping Christmas and these other gods and idols, committing abominations, adultery, because they don't think that Esau, Edom, is really about to move the way he, like we know that he does. He's the devil. He's already showing his horns, but he hasn't really, the average Edomite, the neighbor, Joe, howdy neighbor. No, even that motherfucker, he's about to show his horns too. All that hi neighbor and, the Edomite at your job, no, they're about to crash out, because really that deep hatred and enmity is in all these Edomites, but they've been conditioned, to tone it down, and because of society and being political correct. No, all that's about to be done away. It's about to be thrown out the window. And these devils, these heathens, they're about to show how much they really hate the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And they're about to do a number on our people, on the 2/3 of our people. But the remnant and the elect, they're ultimately going to be kept from these things, because they were getting themselves right with Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, doing all the spiritual things, storing up those treasures in heaven, instead of moving like the 2/3 Israelites. I heard, just wiggling around, not caring about prophecy, not measuring the times diligently. And when all hell breaks loose, when they shall say peace and safety, that's when, Esau, Edom, is going to come down with that great wrath, because he wants these people comfortable. He wants them settled on their leads, to be chilling, to be having their feet kicked up, and then boom, Esau's going to bust that door open. But that's the times we're coming into very soon. But the remnant, the elect, they're going to be kept from these things, ultimately, for fully putting their trust and faith in Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. But that's pretty much the point. I pray that this was edifying unto the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who are learning this truth from him who well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you